alone, and he makes about 40 million from the beef every year. One of his animals was actually the best in the show 2 years ago, and he refused a price of 200,000 shillings.
Kenya shillings.
Kenya shillings. So
it's about 6 million Uganda shillings. That's so about the price of 60 million.
Yes. So what we are talking about is that livestock or pastoralism is very viable. In Arab world, okay, if you go to Arabia, if you go to Dubai, if you go to these places, the government are actually paying people for them to remain in pastoralism because they need the beef, they need the milk, they need everything. So what they are doing is actually they are paid to be there. Why we are having problem as pastoralists in almost in the Horn is only one issue. The land which belongs to us is actually being grabbed. That is where the problem comes in. Because I'm almost 57 years of age, okay? I've never moved out of my village. That is where we live, and we live on pastoralism, owning about 1,300 cattle.
How much land?
The maximum which happens is that we only move our animals to wetter season when there is rain or when there is drought in our place, and that almost happens after every 4, 5, 6 years, which means that if the lands are not grabbed, a pastoralist can survive in his own area for a long, long time. For example, in our own place, we call it Dether, where you have been brought up, where you have been born, okay? Like in Basongora, where Amos has come up and he is born and everything. But what has happened, it is the pressure from outside, which is actually decreasing Amos' land, and you want him to reduce or to leave pastoralism. Yeah. That is where the problem is.
Let's get a case study. How much land do you graze your 1,300 cattle?
What happens is that it is a communal land. I don't own any land. Nor of my clan. We all have the whole district to ourselves. That is a whole division. Everybody is grazing and nobody is fighting over it. And when there is drought, we understand there is drought, and if we have rain and we have grass and we have water, we accept other people, not even from our district, even from the neighboring district. And that is what he calls transhumance. And in West Africa, actually what they have done is to produce a corridor where people can move from, let's say, Ethiopia through Kenya to Uganda and go back.
Mr. Mutabuka, you've just done a fact-finding mission, I believe, in Bulisa, is that right?
Yes.
What did you find, the source of conflicts, and how can it be resolved?
The problem in Bulisa, although I didn't go on the mission, I've had some chance of people who went there because I was busy organizing other things here.
Yes.
The problem in Bulisa is that, as Dr. Wako says, land has generally been owned by the group, by the community as such, grazing there. Now what has happened is that some people have gone to Bulisa and manipulated some members of the community and bought land. Now when these people buy land, they fence it off. Now when land is fenced in a pastoralist area, it has a lot of implications. One, you can no longer practice transhumance to go to wet season grazing areas to the dry season grazing areas. You can no longer you may not be able to access water, because when somebody buys the land and fences it off, maybe even the watering point is in his or her land, so you can no longer access the land. And normally they will not even allow you to graze on their land, and that's the main source of conflict.
What do you mean by manipulated? They are manipulating to selling their land. They want to make some money.
It's very easy. Yes, you are right. Somebody comes, sometimes people say that every person has a price. So you can go to somebody who has never handled even 10,000 shillings. If you give him 20, He may think that it's beneficial and takes the money. But eventually, actually, he may realize that if you lose your way of life, automatically you are in danger later on. And I think this is not a case of we are pastors. Very many young boys who have sold the land they inherit from their parents and come town to ride the borders. After 6 months, the border knocks somebody, he runs away, is locked up at the police, and becomes a beggar. So
he would have been manipulated.
Yes.
Yes.
Personally, I was in Bulisa, and what I saw in Bulisa is something which has happened in 80s or 70s in our place, where actually the cattle people can leave their cattle to go and graze and come back in the evening, they milk and then they go out, which is very rare in every place. What has created the problem today is that people were able to move freely before, but now because of the speculation of the oil exploration, okay, most urban people have come up to buy land, okay?
Yes.
And they buy the land in the name that even if you like it or not, this land will go. That is the room which is there.
Yes.
They will tell the people that you will lose this land, so you better sell it to me. And once they buy the land, in the ordinary Bulisa zone, there was there was free movement. Now this guy demarcates his land, and now there's no movement. This is a problem which happens in most areas between the conflict between agriculture and the pastoralist. For example, in Tana River in Kenya, one time we had a problem of only one thing. The only source of water in Tana River is River Tana.
Yes.
And what they did is that the agriculturalists, the Pokomos, actually wanted to demarcate their land and fence it. Now where do the others pass to go and water their animals? Right. Even the local council, local administration in Bulisa have the same problem right now. The only source is the lake. And now you have sold the land, people have demarcated, the pastoralists cannot pass to go and water their land water the animals in the lake. So there must be a corridor. The administration must produce a corridor for people to be able to move.
Mr. Isimbwa, let's talk about the question of disease. Some people would say when you move with cattle, different places, different times, you could spread disease.
True. But in my context, we don't move. Because if we are moving, then we'd be moving to Nyabusozi, we'd be moving to Teso. We don't do that. You see, let's understand. If you go to Greece and find a problem, don't imagine it happening in Kayunga and happening in Masaka. We should look at the context of the problem. We should look at the area where it is applicable so that we can really address the real issues. We move out the perceptions and go for facts. One most important thing is that we are very poor at research.
Yes.
If we can improve our research methods, get real data, get the real thing, look at the real problem, then maybe you can advise the planners plan accordingly. But if you say the Basongora are moving and they have not moved from Basongora, then they are not moving. Like he has told you about his experience in Borana land.
Yes.
They own the land communally for a purpose.
Right.
Because it is a marginal range land, the only sustainability is to keep it together. But you come in with your own perception, thinking, not knowing how it's been sustaining them, and you say, no, we are changing it. It's not a question of changing, it is improving. And you can only improve by learning the problem from the very people that know the problem. But if you come and say, I am going to change you, you may not change. It's like you are a journalist. If I came in and said, but this man could make a good doctor, you think I will get a good doctor out of you?
Even a politician.
Even a politician, I may not. So it's a question of really looking at the thing and then try to improve it. If you look at the population of this country, 1962 we were about 6 million.
6 million, yes. Right now we are 30.
Where were they living?
The same land.
Same land. But if you look now at the migration,
yes,
where have the Basongora migrated since then?
Same place.
Same place. But the people who have immigrated from there and gone to Lisa, the ones from Teso gone to elsewhere, they are not being talked about.
Only the pastoralists are being
Only the pastoralists are being talked about. And when you look at the poor planning has its own disadvantages. I will take you back to something different. If you look at Africa,
yes,
I stand to be corrected. It's about 30 million square kilometers.
Go on.
But when you look at China,
yes,
it's 9 million square kilometers.
Yes.
If you look at India, it's about 9 million square kilometers.
Yes.
If you look at the USA, it's about 9 million square kilometers. If you look at Britain, Germany, and Yugoslavia,
yes,
you can add on about other 6 countries in those countries. They don't make up Africa. But what is the population of these places?
Much higher.
Not much higher.
Well, China is
China is 1.5 billion.
Yes, India is
about
1.1 billion. Yes.
Now, America is 300 million. Russia is
many of them.
Many of them. If you put all these together, they don't make the population of Africa. But you will hear someone telling you that Africa is overpopulated. It's relative. It's a bad experience that you get. We have to borrow things that we have not gone to research. I would recommend myself that as a journalist, task these people to improve the research programs, pay the researchers more, to give them good information on which to do the planning. Let's not turn the whole of Uganda into a housing estate and say we are doing right, the pastoralists are doing wrong.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can call in our numbers 0414 348 111, 0312 260390, 0312 261390. Dr. Wako, looking forward, how do you see us solving this problem in the region? We have a call. Let's take that caller now. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your name?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much for bringing those guests who have educated us much about pastoralism. It was really a passionate appeal, and we really felt the justification.
Your name again?
To exist. My concern has been a little that traditionally we always knew.
Your name?
In some areas like Mubende, these pastoralists would come in troubled times. Any landlord would let them rest on the land. They would feed their animals and go away and come back, go away. But eventually, what created the problem and what caused conflict was that when they came, eventually they would never leave. And when they don't leave, then they become squatters and want to own the place where a landlord only let them to come in to settle. Then the second point came when they started being armed. Although they argue that it was in self-defense, but arming pastoralists made them even more dangerous and intimidating to many people. Let me hear the contribution that's to this. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Spectrum, hello? Hello? All right, let's get the response. Mr. Mutabuka.
Yes, I think this is a very good observation. But when people come to your land and you have a problem, it's actually part and parcel of the general land tenure system we have in Uganda. Because we tend to do things in a manner that somebody comes, goes there, stays in your place. But we don't have some kind of, if you have a definite understanding on how long this person should be there and what he or she should be doing there, that determines, it has some kind of relationship that is established and known and should be respected. But if you start doing things in such a way that it is a laissez-faire business, that's where the complication begins coming from. And also when it comes to arming pastoralists, I think really we are not the right people to talk about this, because we don't arm the pastoralists. So I think that question should be sent to the right people.
I'll answer it.
Yes, Honorable Wako.
First and foremost, I want to thank the caller because it's very, very patent. Unplanned movement is the problem. What needs to be done is the movement of the pastoralists must be planned to ensure that when they move, because there's drought, they should go back when the problem is over. And this is exactly what all governments should do, what everybody should do. Experience from my own community. Our neighbors are Somali. If there is drought, then they want to come into our district. the administration on that side will bring leaders, and they will cross over. They will say 20 families, 30 families, 40 families has crossed over, and they will go back. So everybody knows exactly what is happening, and that should be the thing which should happen, let's say between Uganda and Kenya, between Kenya and Ethiopia, where the pastoralist or the local administration knows that there are people who have crossed. That is one. Let's talk about the small arms. No pastoralist wants to be armed. Okay? The problem is due to government which has failed. Okay, in Somalia, in Sudan, where there was conflict. So these people have taken up arms, like let's say in Somalia, and the first thing they do is to raid their Kenyan neighbors, where they can get the animals and the others are not armed. So these other ones also buy. And then when they have finished their problem, or they have established equilibrium, they will start going to people like the Borans or some other group. So this is the escalation where the arms has come from. But the solution is to use the elders. Because what normally happens is that in our own area, every place has elders where there is pastoralists. In the 15th district of the pastoralists, there is what we call peace committees. So if your animals are stolen, you don't have to be armed. All you need is to say, this is my animals, 15 of them, 100 of them has crossed to Samburu, to this other district, and it becomes the responsibility of the elders on the other side to look for that. That would solve the problem.
Mr. Isimbwa, talk to us about this, the same problem in Basongora. Okay, let's hear from another caller. Spectrum, hello.
Spectrum, good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Yeah, this is Joe Gazale.
Yes.
It is, and it's a fact that most of these pastors, all people in these pastoral corridors, have remained backward. I will use the word backward in terms of education. Infrastructure is not developed in these areas. Culture and backward culture still reigns in these people. What are you planning to do? Because come to Uganda, for example, Karamoja has remained behind. In Kenya, the Maasais haven't done school compared to the other tribes. How are you really planning to tackle this? Thank you.
Mr. Isimbwa.
Well, I don't have the statistics about the education.
Yes.
But if I can take him at his word, when you look at Karamoja, it has about 6 districts or 5.
Well, I'm not certain. They multiply.
If you look at the level of management, they have their own councils and they are educated. They have 25 MPs. They all qualify. They have doctors, they have PhD holders, they have, if you look at their civil society organizations in Karamoja.
So you think they're not badly off in terms of education?
Well, that's why I'm saying that I don't have the statistics. But the perception about the statistics is that we are told the Karamojong, I was of the same view until I went to Karamoja.
You met educated men and women?
I found very many educated people. Relatively, if you live here and go to Soga down in the villages, take my word, you'll find people worse than the Karamojong, but nobody talks about them.
Honorable Wako.
Probably, if I thanks Mr. John, the statistics from UNICEF about the children in the Horn of Africa shows that it is true that all the pastoralist areas has a low level. And this is one thing. It is the type of education which we are giving which is the problem. Because what normally happens is that when people are moving because of drought, when they are moving because of one issue or the other, the school remains. So what has happened is there are positive issues which UNICEF is doing in Kenya, in Ethiopia and in other areas. Today as we are talking, we have mobile schools and mobile clinics which move with the pastoralist. That's one, to increase the education. 2, to give the opportunity to the student what they have done, UNICEF has actually done a situation whereby, because most of the schools in the rural areas, in pastoralist areas, are not well equipped, how do you get those who are doing well to go to national schools? So every national school in Kenya gives 2 chances to children from pastoralist areas. That way, we have what we call positive trend to make sure they have improved. The same with infrastructure, which is a problem, and government has been doing that.
All right, Mr. Mutabuka.
Thank you very much, listeners. I think we really need to look at the broad context. It's true that education levels are low in the pastoralist areas. But even as a nation, if you look at the number of people who, for instance, sit PRE, primary examinations, the dropout is more than 50%.
Yes.
In the country as a whole. So this is not something that we should be happy about. What I'm saying is that there is a problem which is even broader than pastoralist areas. And also, when Joel talks about infrastructure, that is also right. On the whole, infrastructure in pastoralist areas is less developed. I'll give you an example. Karamoja is about 10% the land mass of Uganda. But there is only 1 kilometer of tarmac road in Moroto town. Yes, Moroto Municipal Council.
Yes.
So, who is responsible for the infrastructure? Is it the Karamoja people or the government of the Republic of Uganda?
Right.
So that one, of course, it's not their problem. They would also have roads, and the point of education, Dr. Wako has talked about it. So, also when you talk about backward culture, I think as somebody who did a little bit of anthropology, there is nothing like bad culture.
Yes.
Culture is culture. Because whatever you talk about is good or bad from your own perspective, because all of us have been socially constructed. I'll give you an example. If you are born here in Uganda, it is okay to eat grasshoppers.
Yes.
But you tell somebody who has never eaten them, when he or she sees you eating them, my God.
You might not like what they see.
Yes. So finally, really, my contribution is that we really need a lot of affirmative action. And our constitution is very clear. We have got, for instance, equalization grant. We have got even a commission of equal rights commission, something like that. Equal opportunity commission. So all these, if they were working effectively, then all these problems would be at least reduced.
All right.
Thank you.
Talk to us about this pastoralism week. Exactly what were you doing during that week?
Yes, the pastoralist week is under the theme of pastoralism. Our contribution to the national development is an event which is held on an annual basis in order to raise the profile of pastoralism. And what we are doing now is one of the things, because we have heard even the chorus saying, we didn't know much about pastoralism. So we have had a week long of activities on Monday and Tuesday. When I work on the other people went to Bulisa to appraise themselves on the problems and the challenges of the people of Bulisa, because Kopakso is an advocacy organization. So some of these challenges, we shall take them up with the relevant government ministries. That was Monday. They left on Monday and came back on Tuesday. Yesterday, we had the official launch of the Pastoralist Week, where we had some addresses and cultural dances showcasing, our heritage. Today we had an open exhibition at the National Theatre grounds, which was graced by Honorable Amelia Chambade, the Minister of Trade and Cooperatives.
Yes.
We expressed our problems in terms of, for instance, the marketing infrastructure. You see, you find that when somebody is buying a cow, they do it by visual assessment. You look at the cow, say, so the one who is buying will say it's a very poor cow. and give you little money.
Right.
But when you are buying meat or milk, you buy it by a specific weight measure.
Yes.
So we are saying even the marketing function should be streamlined,
right,
and we should be given opportunities for marketing outside Uganda.
We have to go. Thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin Mutabuka, Coalition of Pastoralist Civil Society Organizations. Thank you for coming to Spectrum.
Most welcome.
Mr. Amos Isimbwa with intriguing perspectives. He comes from the Basongora Group for Justice and Human Rights. If you talk to him, you have to have a very open mind. He has very challenging perspectives. Thank you for coming to Spectrum, sir. We also had Honorable Dr. Abdullahi Hajwako from Kenya. He's the chairman of the Regional Center for Pastoralist Elders. He's also a member of parliament in that country. Thank you for coming, sir, tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. The Spectrum will return tomorrow. Up next is the news in English. Do stay tuned.
Let the sunlight in.
Good morning, sunshine of my life. You look happy today.
I am. I came in here and I saw there was a whole pile of washing.